Hey, how you doing, people? This is Bob Gums of the Concerned Forum, and I have a few bones to pick. I hope everyone is doing well this evening, or at least surviving. Uh, I just got really about just three big topics that I'm going to hit this evening. Let's talk about Brother Mamdami. This is. I'm going to tell you what's going on. This whole mayoral election for the mayor of New York, it's become a farce. Not because of Zohan Mamdami, but because of the morons that constantly keep trying to attack him. Curtis Lewa, and of course the one and only former governor Cuomo. Uh, Tell you the truth, I ain't really got that much to say about it, except for the fact that we find that the former governor, he was already rejected by the voters of New York the first time in the primary. And see, this is not only hysterical, but historical. Because here in New York City, once you win the primary, that's it. The election is really like a formality. Because in New York, the people of New York basically express their feelings for the office of mayor through the primary. Now, Cuomo didn't do that. So he decided to run away from being a Democrat. And he said, well, I'm going to try and go kind of independent. And, this guy is getting all kinds of funds and help from Wall Street, from AIPAC, you can be sure, and believe it or not, from the one and only Donald Trump, right? And, to me, it seems like it's a fight between the haves and the mass majority of the people of New York. And I'm so tired of hearing about hearing these clowns say, "Oh, well, if you put a socialist Marxist in the mayor's seat of New York, well, number one, I don't know where the hell they get socialist Marxists from. Mamdami is a democratic socialist. These are the same type of people who have, helped us in our stupid ass wars in the Middle East. I'm talking about Dutch, Brits, uh, Luxembourg, Belgium, Germans, right? They all have some kind of either labor, uh, social democrat, social democratic socialist party, or what have you. So, America, man, we got to stop this business about being scared of words. That's our biggest problem, quite frankly. And I don't think that people get it. Uh, those who have a reading level of above, the seventh grade, and those who are not so hung up in their own breed, they know because it's like a dictionary definition. I can't I can't create a sewer system for my neighborhood there in the Bronx, right? But as we band together as a city, we have public works, right? That's socialism. Okay. I don't want to have to walk around with my old military 45 strapped to my hip every time I go out the door for fear of some bad people trying to rob me or hurt me or my family. So we have a police force made up of a whole bunch of citizens of New York. That, my friend, is socialism, right? We have Social Security so that when we get to old age, we don't have to be worried about being literally kicked to the curb with nothing to eat. Yeah, that's how Social Security came to be invented. And that's something that we all participate in. And yes, that is socialism, right? So all these people that cry about, oh, he's a socialist, and they don't get the part about Democrat, right? Social Democratic socialists. They don't get that part, right? They just want to talk about, oh, he's a socialist. You feel so anti-democratic socialist. Take your social security card and burn it. Okay? Stop being a hypocrite. Because all democratic socialism is talking about is that we work together as a community, as a people, right? I didn't join the state of New York, United State of New York Navy. I joined the United States Navy. That in and of itself is a socialist act because the Navy is made up of supposedly people from all 50 states. And I mean, you gotta laugh sometimes, even though it hurts to see people either so stupid, so uninformed, or so damn greedy. And I think that's what's happening with our New York mayor's race. You know, I think another reason why Zoran catches hell so much from a certain group of people, you got to remember this is the first American politician since the days of Jack Kennedy and even to a point Nixon, where you had an American politician that said, "Nah, I ain't going to Israel." That's not what people are electing me for. And each one of those people who were at that debate and proudly declared that the first thing they would do upon being elected is to go to Israel. As far as I'm concerned, they should be banned from politics. I don't have that power, but I swear I'll never vote for them. Unless they were willing to repudiate those statements, I would never vote for them. And I'm glad to see Lisa Cook is suing Trump over that unlawful firing. You don't fire governors of the Federal Reserve. President doesn't do that. This is supposed to be America. And because of a bunch of MAGA idiots, we're turning into a cross between Putin's Russia and the state of Mississippi. And that's, that's a tragedy. That's a true tragedy, right? But as I was saying, that's why Zohan catches so much hell. Because ordinarily, in this day and time, you have very few politicians that have had the guts to stand up and say that. Was he right to say that? He was, most definitely. Secondly, if you want to get down to get down to cases, the government of Israel is perpetrating a genocide, okay, and a forced removal of another group of people. To me, it's quite similar to what the Nazis did to the Jewish ghetto in Warsaw, right, early in World War II. See, Americans, you see what happens when you don't pay attention to history. That's why we pay attention, or we're supposed to pay attention to history, so we don't repeat the same dumb shit, quite frankly. And that's what's happening in Gaza, which also, by the way, it's going to leave open, depending upon if we still have the orange god in the White House, uh, boots on the ground. Because if all of those Muslim Arab, excuse me, Muslim Arab areas and Christian Arab areas, and yeah, a lot of people who have been slaughtered and killed are Christian Palestinians, right? A lot of the buildings that have been blown up and damaged our Christian churches. So if the whole area just rose up and said, no, we're not gonna have this, what would happen? American troops would be sent over there, as I said, depending upon who's the president. And it will be a bloody mess. And oh, I am so sick of these damn evangelicals. The only decent evangelical I ever came across, well, actually, at once upon a time, there were two, Billy Graham and Jimmy Carter. And that's about it as far as I'm concerned. Uh, because they are in such a god awful hurry to bring about the apocalypse. Uh, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I do remember a passage in the Bible where God says, "You know not the day or the hour." So, as a former Roman Catholic, I say that these people who are trying to bring about the apocalypse are full of crap, quite frankly. The Lord will do, or the Creator will do, what He will do when He wants to do it. No matter how much you jump up and down or try and pull little buttons and what have you. So this whole nonsense about these evangelicals running around here in America, uh, trying to precipitate was it a clash of civilizations. I think it's totally asinine, right? And it's damn dangerous. If you have kids of military age, I would be worried about leaving someone like Trump or his goofy vice president in charge. Okay, it's bad enough to lose a child in war, but do you really want to lose a child uh, helping Israel commit genocide or helping Trump take over Greenland or attack Venezuela or attack Mexico or attack Canada? I mean, oh, my God, he has a very busy calendar, this boy Donald. He most certainly does. And as I was saying, that's the thing that has caused, believe it or not, Mamdami the most hell. And oh, Cuomo, right? His arch rival. This guy was a lawyer for Netanyahu, right? The prime minister who's a war criminal. So, where does it end? Huh? Where does it end? Trust me, we need people like Mamdami. We most certainly do. And I'm kind of grooving here, listening to my little Stevie Wonder. Uh, as a matter of fact, Stevie has it right because listen to this song. Listen to it. All you APAC lovers out there getting those big checks. All you people sitting up in Congress, right? Getting that money from APAC. Listen carefully. Hear that, Brother Jeffries? Hmm. Oh, yeah. And yeah, that's Stevie Wonder. And he is laying down to a lot of these politicians here who seem to be, and that goes for both sides of the aisle. Because we know a lot of the Republicans, they can't even hold a decent town hall meeting for fear of their constituents trying to tear them apart. Democrats, we treat you a little more kindly, but we know who your donors are, and I think it's time that nonsense stops. Quite frankly, what did Jesus say? What did he say? Didn't he say something about no man can serve two masters? Think about that. You're going to either serve the donors or you are going to serve your constituents. And when we talk about Mamdami, he gets 100%. He gets an A plus for that and for the statement that he made about getting elected and staying in New York and fixing the problems of New York. If I ever decide to run for public office, and I'm close, seriously, I am close. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in 26 or 27? But if I had an elected office and I was dealing with a particular problem like transportation, uh, banking, right? Um, Health and Human Services, you know what I would do? I would go to the state universities, and I'm a New Yorker, so I'd go to NYU, SUNY, something, someplace like that, City University of New York. I would get the chair of each one of those departments, and I would invite them to my office, them or one of their top teachers or top lecturers, and that's who I would bring in to advise me. Um, I would take them to dinner on my congressional expense account, and I would tell them, well, when I was in school, I picked up on this, that, and the other, but you are a real professional at this. You teach this. Make me make me smart on economics. Make me smart on health services because we have PhDs, professors in each one of these disciplines, and I think that would be more uh, efficacious, more honest, less hassle than the constant parade of donors, coming in and out of the office, leaving envelopes. Really. And guess what? You know who would benefit from that? The constituents, the voters, the people. You remember that, guys? You folks in elective office, remember those folks? the people you're supposed to represent? Look, and this ties in to the mayoral campaign. Because the truth of the matter is, you cannot, and I know right now, Gaza is the big thing, but it's just not the right wing, the right wing party in the Israeli Knesset. It's big oil, it's big pharma, all these donors, right? And like I said, I'm not a Bible beater, but there's good things to be found in the Bible. And the man said, no one can serve, you can't serve two masters. See? And I think that is what's really hurt the Democratic Party. I put it to you like this. I think that the Democratic Party needs Zohan Mamdami way more than Zohan Mamdami needs them. Okay? Zohan needs Democratic voters. And I believe that he has just about got the majority of them. That's not the problem. The base of the Democratic Party is not the problem. But as far as the elected Democrats, those folks down in the DNC, yeah, that's the problem. Because they have their consultants, their advisors, their financial people that kiss the ass of the donors, because they had to be pampered, right? And that is what has gotten the Democratic Party over the last 20 years. That's what's gotten us in trouble. And for the sake of transparency, I'm a registered Democrat, and I signed on as a member of DSA. So I'm looking at it from both sides of the fence. And I was born and raised in New York City in a black Republican family who my dad ran for the assembly in Harlem as a Republican. And he was also the vice president in Harlem of the Morningside Heights Republican Club. And quite frankly, I think I know more about the Republican Party than the people in the RNC, quite frankly, because number one, this is not the Republican Party. This is a MAGA party. This ain't the party of Lincoln. See, the Republicans punked out and they let Trump take them over because they didn't understand who and what they were dealing with, right? Listen, I know I'm going to catch a lot of hell for this, but you got to remember something, especially when you're talking about the heartland, insular America, the heartland and the South. People are not that well informed. They're just not, right? And a lot of them, especially when you talk about the South, they're dealing with a lot of old traditions, a lot of old biases, right? In 1867, they made a decision in that part of the country. The North was rapidly industrializing, and the South decided to go in the opposite direction. They decided to walk backwards. And it basically, for the next 100 years after the end of the Civil War, it suffocated them, truly. And I've had many a white Southerner tell me straight up to my face, hey, listen, we didn't start working class people in the South. The average Southerner didn't really start making good money or decent money until integration came. As much as many of them screamed and yelled and bitched about it, the Atlanta Braves. Because you got to remember, no major league team was really able to play in the South. I mean, Jackie Robinson, he caused all kinds of tremors. And that's what happened with the Republican Party. They allowed themselves to be taken over by the guys wearing sheets who decided to stop wearing sheets and stop wearing business suits. And that's what happened. The Democratic Party, since 32, has started to get more and more on the side of the angels. And they were good with that. Until I don't know what the hell happened. They get into the 70s and I don't know, they start freaking out. Some of them try, well, let's be more like Republicans, or let's be more moderate. Listen, as one Southern Democrat used to say, only thing in the middle of the road is roadkill. And that's what happened to the Democratic Party. Plus, they got that terrible reputation of being, as we used to say when I was on the street, punks. Because they didn't look like they were standing up and ready to fight for anything, like they once upon a time used to, see? And that's what happened to the Democratic Party. Now, I'm happy to see that you have Democrats who are starting to break that trend and who are really standing up. Seriously, because it might not look like the whole mass of elected Democrats and the party machinery is, standing up and going in the correct direction. But believe me, those Democrats who are standing up, it helps. It helps a lot. If it wasn't for them, the Trump takeover would already be an accomplished feat. Okay? As it is now, democracy is hanging by a thread. And that's why I say we need Democrats. We need Democrats like Mamdami. Because what we have here is a life and death struggle between democracy and dictatorship. And I'm not exaggerating, okay? Back in 2016, when I warned people that this was coming, everybody was saying I was hyperbolic. I used to be a member of the Green Party for a while, and they thought that I was so hyper. And I said, man, you need to stop this guy Trump. And I used to call my Democratic representatives and beg them, yo, stand up for this, fight for that. Trust me, my calls never got returned. But I'm just curious, how hyperbolic do I seem now? We have the military patrolling the streets of D.C. We have an orange-headed God, small g, who wants to send the military help. Give him a chance. He'd send the Marines into Chicago, into Baltimore, and into New York, right? The only thing that's stopping him is because he's seeing Democratic governors starting to say, hey, wait a minute. In the first place, the National Guard, that belongs to me. If you want it, find an emergency and declare it. And Trump can't do that. He can't do it. Legally, he has nothing to stand on. So if he wants to move into Chicago, it's going to be hell to pay. Same thing with Baltimore. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'd like to see him pull that bullshit in Harlem or in Brooklyn. I mean, it would be a political disaster, because then you would really have the blue states up against the wall, right? When you corner, like they say, corner rats. Well, not just rats. You corner any living, breathing animal, right? Something's gonna give, okay? Something's gonna give. And I think that even in his sick, decrepit, rapidly wasting mind, I think even Donald realizes that. The laws are made for a purpose, right? What does this have to do with the mayoral election in New York City? You want a mayor that's going to stand for the people. I'm not, I would not presume to tell Mr. Mamdami, if he gets elected, how he should handle ICE or the National Guard or the Marines coming to New York. But I do know that Mamdami would would be there and he would do his best to protect the citizens of New York City. You have to remember something. This is, you're talking about Baltimore, Chicago, New York, Boston. Hey, man, most of us in these cities that I've just mentioned, we all look like a bunch of immigrants anyway. Seriously. We all look Latino or black, could be African, could be Haitian, could be Cuban or Nicaraguan, right? You expect some 22-year-old kid from, I don't know, mid Arkansas, how the hell, to know the difference? And see, the question also raises, well, if you want to play that game, well, maybe blue state governors should start sending our National Guard to Tennessee, to Alabama, right? To Arkansas. These places have higher crime rates than DC or New York. Much higher murder rates, higher than Chi-Town or Baltimore. I mean, if you want to play that game. I personally believe, in my opinion, what blue state governors need to start doing. Look, we have seen how these laws are being used to hurt people, okay? They're being used to hurt working people. Now, I'm not going to get into any discussion about what the plan is to, wipe out a middle class. The plan is for, big corporate people to make money off of the sufferings of working class people trying to shop at Walmart. I'm not getting into that. But what I am saying is that in this country, right, blue states are the ones that contribute to the federal government. Red states are the ones that take from the federal government. Secession is unconstitutional, hence illegal. I know that. I went to school, and sometimes I even stayed awake in class. So I learned a few things, unlike Donald. So I'm not, I don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to raise a civil war, something like that, calling for succession. But what I will say is that the state governments, the blue state governments have an obligation to look out for the people in their state, right? We have laws that have been made that run counter to, quote unquote, what's supposed to be the American way. Um, if I was if I was a governor of a blue state, I would start looking at ways that hey man, look, you clowns in DC, you're really hurting my people. So I'm going to stop sending this kind of, the money I've been sending, and it's going to stay. New York's money is going to stay in New York, and Illinois' money is going to stay in Illinois, and Maryland's money is going to stay in Maryland. That's one way to get a good message out about get off our backs. Another way, another way would be the debt ceiling business, right? I, if I was a blue state congressperson, I would not vote to raise the debt limit. No way in hell. You want me to raise the debt limit? That money that you got going to ICE, I want to see it cut in half. Also, I want to start holding hearings on ICE people who have abused their power. When I say abuse their power, I'm talking about snatching people off the street, grabbing people with no warrant. I mean, come on, man, this is America. We don't snatch babies out of hospitals. We don't grab people going to church. And most importantly, we don't grab people going to court to try and get their business straight. Okay? We don't do that. We don't play that. All right? There's a reason. Remember that old country guy, right? And I'm proud to be an American. Well, that's one of the reasons why we were supposed to be proud to be Americans. But what I see happening in my country does not make me proud. Sorry. You know, only babies, infants, right? You're supposed to give unrestricted love to, okay? But grown folks running a government, no. And when I see people being beaten in the street, when I see supposedly federal prosecutor trying to give a guy life because he threw a sandwich at a cop, no, excuse me, an ICE person, no. And this is the same president, by the way. The people who were killing, because, yeah, they caused the death of, I believe, a couple of Capitol Hill police officers and beating them, right? Trump gives them amnesty. And that crazy woman that likes to shoot her dogs, Norm, whatever, she hires this clown who was he was in jail, right? For yelling, hey, let's kill the cops. Can you imagine if a brother did that? Please. So, not to mention the fact that Trump is bending over backwards to try and give this sex trafficking ex-girlfriend of his, Ghislaine, Maxwell? You know, he's trying to work his way to give her a pardon. Or at the very least, they took her out of prison, put her in a fun tennis camp in Texas. If they don't give her a pardon, she's probably just going to sit there for the next 3 years, chilling until the end of this term. So I don't think that Donald, I had something written down here. Hold on a second. Not to mention that his wife came over here on a phony visa. Was it the Einstein visa? I'm curious, what brilliant work of art did she ever create? Because that's what Einstein visas are for, right? But let me see now. 5-time draft dodger. We've got like 96 million in fraud judgments, 34 felony convictions. He ran a fake university, which he had to pay back to the people who fell for that scam. Two fake charities, one for handicapped kids and one for disabled veterans, which really pisses me off, as I'm a disabled vet. And him or his family could not have a charity in the state of New York. I think also for Jersey and Connecticut. I'm not sure on that. But in the state of New York, he can't have a charity. He can't have a charity for bunnies, right? Hippity hoppy little bunnies. If you want to have a rest home for rabbits, he can't even do that. It's not. So it would be illegal because he's been busted with his hand in the till. So, let me say, 6 bankruptcies. Okay. So much for his great business acumen. Okay. Been impeached twice. Well, that's bullshit because the Republicans laid down like little lambs and let him get away with it. I know 97 times he pleaded the fifth in his courtroom dramas, right? And let me see. Well, hell, that's about, I think that's enough. Oh, not to mention 26 allegations of sexual abuse. I believe he's got twice convicted of sexual abuse with 26 allegations of sexual abuse. So this is the guy that's going to launch a war on crime. And the people that he has working, in and around his cabinet, it's just as bad as Adams in New York, right? Either been indicted or being investigated, so on and so forth. So who in the hell is this guy to get on this high horse and talk about immigration, number one, and number two, talk about crime? You can't talk about crime if you're a criminal. The only thing you can do, maybe, you can go out there and you can counsel people saying, well, yeah, I was in the joint for 15 years, blah, 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 and I learned my lesson, right? Yeah, that kind of job you can do. But for you to be supposedly the chief law enforcement officer of this democracy, huh? See, this is why New York City, they need to have a strong mayor that's not beholden to a bunch of donors, right? Because you have this guy sitting in the White House, and he, as you can see, he's falling apart from the inside out. His mind is like running loose in his head like a freight train, right? You don't know what he's going to try and do next. So people of New York City need to be protected. And it's a funny thing because, especially over the last 15 years or so, when people talk about New York, they're always talking, oh yeah, well, Wall Street and the stars and the mega hits and blah, blah, blah. But nobody thinks about the average, everyday New Yorker. I know, I live in the Bronx, right? I lived in the Bronx. And it's hell. It is hell just trying to live and be an honest, decent person. And it's like nobody cares about. I mean, you got these, you got your local politicians, your local office holders, right? You're on the congressional level, sending out like little leaflets about what they do. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with you, right? Your life is hell. And Mamdami comes along and says, you know what, this is bullshit. The average working New Yorker should not have to live like this. And then Cuomo, oh, this fucks me up. He's going to talk about, yeah, Mamdami's got a rent control apartment. Well, number one, wait a minute. And again, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it Cuomo that passed the law that said even if you made over a certain amount of money, you could still stay in a rent control apartment? Huh? So what the hell is he talking about? Now, um, you know, get back to me if I'm incorrect about that, but I do believe that's one of the bills that he passed. What he tried to do with the subway was a complete bust, quite frankly. I mean, a couple of the stations on the east side got cleaned. And our transportation in New York needs massive, super massive help, you know. And see, that's what I'm saying. Everything is over. The average Joe or Jane in New York is totally overlooked. And if you want to know why people are flocking to Mamdami, Black people, Italian people, Irish people, white Protestant people, right? Greeks, Latinos, right? The whole damn New York family. It's because they find a guy that cares about them. And it really pisses me off when I hear, oh, he's an anti-Semite. No, he ain't no damn anti-Semite. I know an anti-Semite. I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. All right, I know anti-Semitism when I see it. All right, you got the biggest anti-Semite sitting in the White House. Yeah, remember when he invited anti-Semites to the White House and the Mar-a-Lago? So I don't want to hear this bullshit. Okay, Mamdami reaches out to everyone. Okay, but he's not going to kiss anybody's ass. I don't know if the campaign would appreciate me putting it like that, but I speak what I speak what I believe, and I speak what I feel to be true, and that's what New Yorkers appreciate. That's why he's still up in the polls. I hope he stays there. You know, I would keep an eye on the Board of Elections. I live in the Bronx. Okay, I lived in the Bronx now. I'm overseas now, but I know about the Board of Elections, and living in the Bronx, and just put it this way, strange things have been known to happen. I mean, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just telling it like it is. Strange things have been known to happen. But I think, I think that Mamdami will do quite well. I think he'll be our next mayor. And I foresee the problem. I see more problems with him after he gets elected, God willing, right? That's where I see the fireworks start. Because, Orange Head in D.C., he's going to try and do everything he can to denigrate New York. Why, I don't know. I mean, my God, we put up with him living there for all these years, and that was a royal pain in the ass. So I hope that Mr. Mamdami makes it. Come on, brother, you can do it. I'm for you. The majority of working class New Yorkers for you. So hang in there. You got it going on. Now, on a more let me try and take a couple of breaths here. You heard about that bullshit? When was it, yesterday in Minneapolis? This clown, this cowardly, stupid, ugly, evil, freaking clown fires into a Roman Catholic church in school on the first day of school, kills a 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and wounds 17 other people. That bothers me because I'm a Catholic schoolboy. Okay, shout out to St. Thomas the Apostle on 118th Street in Harlem. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, because after he did his evil shit, he apparently blew his brains out. My opinion, he had it backwards. He should have blew his brains out when he woke up in the morning and spared the lives of those 2 kids. Okay. He had a lot of stuff in there. I believe he was a Trump supporter. I think he was, a trans person. We really don't know. We're still getting all the facts. Trey Gowdy, former Republican congressperson and a Fox, Fox News, is that what they call it? Anyway, one of the Fox hosts. He's one of the Fox hosts that didn't get a job in the Trump administration. Um, and he said something that really shocked me, especially coming from a Southerner and a Fox media person. He raised the question uh, about young white men. And he made the observation that 9 times out of 10, when you see a mass shooting, it's not a woman nor a person of color, right? It's a young white male. Now, don't get it twisted. Um, Young black men, we shoot each other all the time, but it's like a thing. In other words, I'm going to do a drive-by because you disrespected me or you encroached in my turf or something like that. But we're not going to wantonly, walk into a church and blow away 10 or 11 people, right? We're not going to go into a synagogue and slay like 13 Jewish people. We're not going to go into a church and blow away 11 or 12 people. We're not going to go into a school and take out the whole first grade class. And Gotti made the point that this is something that America needs to look into. I agree with him. I agree with him. But I would say we have to take a look at what we have been telling our youth, right? And this is a very, when you talk about black on black crime, I lost my firstborn son to gun violence. So I know what time it is when it comes to this conversation. But this whole mass shooting thing, this is made in America, okay? And I've been overseas, and I tell you, that's the first thing people, who are not from America, can we go to America as tourists? Is it safe? I get that from Africans, I get that from Brits, I get that from Chinese, I get that, because here where I'm at, it's Uganda, it's crossroads of Africa, just southern Central Africa, or is it Central Southern Africa? Anyway, I get that from, people overseas. But it's a good question, quite frankly. I think the biggest problem with America, and I know I'm going to catch hell for this, but we need to really sit down and take a mirror and take a look at ourselves, right? And, we need to look at our history. I mean, the real history, not this bullshit that Trump is trying to shove down the throats of the Smithsonian, but the real history. And not just about the whole black and white thing. A lot has happened here, what America did to the indigenous people, uh, the hell that the labor movement had to go through, how women were oppressed in American society. I know people don't like to talk about these things, but all that plays a role. Everybody on both sides of the fence jumped down Malcolm X's throat when he said it, but he was right. He was right about that. Chickens come home to roost. And I really fear that we as a society, we have been so much about greed and about power and about violence and about having to have some group to look down upon. I mean, what was it? Lyndon Johnson said something to the effect of, if you tell a poor white man that he's better. No, tell a low, broke white guy that he's better than the best colored man, and you can pick his pocket and give him somebody to look down upon, and he'll help you pick his pocket, or words to that effect. That was Lyndon Johnson, right? Um, Southern man from South Texas, but unfortunately he was right, especially in the second analogy he said about having someone to look down upon, and with that, with the violence, with the greed, child labor, what we did to children in this country as we became, as we were rising up as the economic powerhouse. I mean, it's like, that's why people rebelled against market capitalism, quite frankly. In America, we had a huge dose. But see, in America, what we did, we always had, we always had a group to look down upon. The indigenous people, the blacks, then the Irish, then the Italians. I used to hang Italians like lynching, right? Louisiana used to make a specialty of that. Other than blacks and Chicanos, right? And some Chinese, the people who were lynched the most were Italians in Louisiana for a long time. And I believe that so much has happened with this country, slavery, the Jim Crow, and my God, what do parents teach their kids? Somebody's teaching something bad, because if they weren't, we wouldn't still be having all these problems. That's why I fell out of love with, what's his name, Bill Maher. He used to be my favorite comedian. Until about a year or so ago, he started getting on this kick about attacking trans people. And that really bothered me. And talking about LGBT people, and also, criticizing black artists, certain black artists, just for being black. And that's when he turned me on. And apparently he turned a lot of people off, especially after his dinner date with the Orange God in D.C., you know. But see, it's a sickness that America has. And it's like when you got a sick relative and they don't want to admit that they have problems, right? I, I am so, believe me, I am totally saddened for those people who were killed and wounded yesterday in Minnesota. But that's a symptom. And then you got these gun nuts, right? They don't know a damn thing about the Constitution. They don't know a damn thing about the first 10 amendments, except the Second Amendment, right? Well, I need my Second Amendment rights, to fight tyranny. Well, you phony bastard. What do you think you got going on in the White House right now, right? Take your ass down to D.C. and go up against some of them National Guard people. If you are that hyped up about your defense against tyranny, which is bullshit, quite frankly. I trust the National Guard. right? It's Trump that I don't trust. And I don't want to see Trump maneuver us in a position where these guys and gals have to kill their fellow Americans. Because Trump is sick enough to do that. But these mass shootings, may those angels have a smooth transition to the next world. But this is not time. This is not the time for thoughts and prayers. This is the time to seriously take a look at what we call America, right? And on top of that, what this guy Trump is doing to America. Because quite frankly, if it keeps going the way it's going, and you got people, I'm talking about American citizens who are fleeing the United States. See, they plan on coming back and forth, right? But you got people who are fleeing the United States, never to return, right? Black people, white people, Latino people, Asian people, people running away from America. And I understand why. Because if we keep going the way we're going, it's not going to be, we're not going to be a fit country to live in. You know, we used to have a tourism industry in America, right? We don't have it no more. Vegas has become a ghost town. Florida, with that simple-minded MAGA governor that they got, they've killed the state. That's why I tell folks, go MAGA, go broke. Is that the plan? That Trump and his wealthy buddies, is this the plan that they have for us? They have a country that people can't stand to visit and are desperate to get out of? You got, what is it, Homeland Security, whatever the hell that woman Norm is in charge of. She wants to paint or have a wall along the southern border and paint it black. I wonder how Ronald Reagan would like that. Huh? I wonder how he'd feel about that. I wonder how that statue in New York Harbor, Statue of Liberty, I wonder how she feels about that. I think that's a tragedy. Just like with those people yesterday in Minneapolis. America is becoming a tragedy. And instead of elected Democrats and Democratic Party functionaries wringing their hands, worrying about Mamdami, excuse me, I would suggest that what they need to do, I'm glad to see that Obama has reached out to him. What the rest of them need to do, and I'm talking to Richie Torres, I'm talking um, to our minority leader in the House, all right? What you folks need to do, you need to start taking notes on what Mamdami is doing. Seriously. And you need to start cutting these donors loose. And you need to start walking the streets of your districts and start talking to your constituents, start talking to your people. See? And we got to try and save this. You know, we have to stand up to Trump and we have to try and save what's left of this country. Otherwise, it'll just be a big paragraph in a history book 100 years from now. Shit, 50 years from now. The way we're going, maybe 20. But yeah, that's what we need to do. But as long as there's hope, there's a chance. As long as people are willing to stand up and speak out and fight back, there's a chance. Listen, I just had to get this off my chest. You folks take care. Um, if you like what, you see it on YouTube, you see this on YouTube. If you like what you see, like what you hear, give it a little check. And at least take the time to listen to what I have to say. Folks, this is Bob Gums of the Concerned Forum. Bless you and peace. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.